Miami, 2012. In a modest apartment, a 27-year-old man sits in front of glowing computer screens. His fingers move rapidly across the keyboard. He's not playing video games. He's not browsing social media. He's manufacturing something far more valuable and far more illegal. This is John Boseak. Online, he's known as 305 Scammer. And right now, at this very moment, he's one of the most wanted cybercriminals in America. By day, he looks like any other young man. By night, he's the kingpin of credit card fraud, shipping thousands of counterfeit cards to criminal organizations across the globe, from Canada to Serbia, from the Russian mob to international fraudsters. He's making between $30,000 and $40,000 every single month. His largest customer orders 5,000 cards at a time. Wire transfers? Over $100,000. But here's what makes this story truly unbelievable. Just 5 years earlier, John Boseak was homeless. This is the story of how a desperate teenager with nothing to lose became Miami's dark lord of credit card scams. How he mastered the hidden corners of the internet that most people don't even know exist. And how the most powerful law enforcement agencies in the world, the FBI, the Secret Service, hunted him down. You're about to discover the shocking truth about what really happens on dark web carding forums. How a homeless kid learned to fool banks, bypass security systems, and create perfect counterfeit credit cards. The cat-and-mouse game with federal agents that would change his life forever. And the secrets he reveals about how you could be the next victim. But before we dive into the dark web underworld, we need to understand where it all began. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. Have you ever checked your credit card statement and seen a charge you didn't recognize? Maybe you brushed it off. Maybe you reported it. But have you ever wondered where that fraud actually came from? The answer might shock you. Because the operation you're about to learn about wasn't run by some sophisticated international crime syndicate with unlimited resources. It was run by one man, in one apartment, with a few $1,000s worth of equipment. If this story captivates you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel brings you the most detailed true crime documentaries on YouTube, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let me take you back to where it all started. To a teenager sleeping in his car with nothing but a laptop and a dream that would turn into a nightmare. John Boseak's story doesn't begin in a penthouse or a tech startup. It begins at rock bottom. As a teenager, Boseak found himself homeless, living out of his car. No family support, no money, no prospects. For most people, this would be the end of the road. But for John Boseak, this was just the beginning. What he did have was something valuable, a laptop, and more importantly, he had time to explore the parts of the internet that most people never see. While other kids his age were worried about college applications and weekend parties, Boseak was teaching himself the darkest secrets of cybercrime. He wasn't browsing Facebook or YouTube. He was diving deep into underground forums, learning from the world's most sophisticated fraudsters. But why credit cards? What made this particular crime so appealing? To understand John Boseak's rise, you need to understand the dark web specifically, a world called carding. Carding forums are hidden marketplaces where criminals buy, sell, and trade stolen credit card information. Think of it like eBay, but for fraud. These sites exist on the dark web, accessible only through special encrypted browsers that hide your identity and location. One of the most notorious forums was Carter Sue. And this is where John Boseak would make his name. On these forums, there's a hierarchy. At the bottom, you have the carders, the people who actually use stolen cards to buy goods. Above them, you have vendors, people who sell stolen card data. But at the very top, you have the plastics vendors. And that's exactly what John Boseak became. Plastics vendors don't just sell card numbers. They create physical counterfeit cards, perfect replicas that can fool ATMs, gas station readers, and even some bank tellers. This requires specialized equipment, technical knowledge, and nerves of steel. But how does someone go from homeless to running a counterfeit credit card factory? That's where the story gets really interesting. Boseak didn't wake up one day knowing how to manufacture counterfeit credit cards. He had to learn. And in the dark web underworld, education comes at a price. First, he needed the equipment. Card embossers to press numbers onto plastic, magnetic strip encoders to program the data, hologram overlays to make cards look authentic, thermal printers for realistic card designs. Then came the hardest part, perfecting the craft. Early attempts failed. Cards wouldn't swipe. Holograms looked fake. Numbers didn't match the data on the magnetic strip. But Boseak was obsessed. He studied every failure. He improved his technique. He built relationships on the forums, learning from other criminals who had perfected the art. And slowly, methodically, he transformed himself from a desperate homeless kid into someone else entirely. He became 305 Scammer, and 305 Scammer was about to become very, very wealthy. By his mid-20s, John Boseak had gone from sleeping in his car to running one of the most sophisticated credit card counterfeiting operations in the world. His setup was surprisingly simple. One apartment, a few $1,000s in equipment, and an encrypted internet connection that made him virtually invisible. But the scale? That was anything but simple. Boseak was shipping thousands of counterfeit cards every month to criminals worldwide. His customer base read like an international crime directory: Canadian fraudsters, Serbian organized crime, and even members of the Russian mob. His largest customer, someone Boseak never met in person, ordered 5,000 cards at a time. Think about that. 5,000 individual credit cards, each one a perfect counterfeit, each one capable of draining thousands of dollars from unsuspecting victims. The money started flowing in, not hundreds, not thousands, tens of thousands every single month. But Boseak wasn't stupid. He knew that the FBI and Secret Service were hunting people like him. He knew that one mistake could mean decades in federal prison. So he built layers of security that would make a cybersecurity expert jealous. First, VPN servers, virtual private networks, that masked his real IP address, making it look like he was connecting from anywhere in the world. Second, ICQ encrypted messaging. He never communicated through regular email or text. Every single conversation with customers was encrypted, leaving no trace for investigators to follow. Third, wireless antennas. Boseak didn't even use his own internet connection. He tapped into wireless networks around his apartment, adding another layer of distance between him and law enforcement. On paper, John Boseak was untouchable. His operation was too well hidden, too carefully constructed, too sophisticated for traditional police work. But he'd made one critical mistake. He'd underestimated the United States Secret Service. At his peak, John Boseak was making between $30,000 and $40,000 every single month. For context, that's more than many doctors, lawyers, and engineers earn. And he was doing it from his apartment, working a few hours a day. Wire transfers of $100,000 or more became routine. His reputation on the forums was legendary. Other criminals trusted him. They knew that when they ordered from 305 Scammer, they'd get quality cards that actually worked. But with great success comes great risk. And in the world of cybercrime, there's always someone watching. Here's what most people don't understand about cybercrime. You're not just competing against law enforcement. You're competing against other criminals. The dark web is full of scammers, informants, and people who would sell you out for the right price. Trust is a commodity, and it's always in short supply. Boseak was careful, but he couldn't control everything. Customers got arrested. Some of them talked. Investigators started connecting dots. And somewhere in a Secret Service field office, agents were building a case. The empire that took years to build was about to come crashing down in a single day. While John Boseak was living his double life, normal guy by day, cybercrime kingpin by night, the United States Secret Service was watching. The Secret Service doesn't just protect the president, they're also responsible for investigating financial crimes, including credit card fraud, and they're very, very good at it. Investigators had been monitoring Carter, SU, and other dark web forums for months. They'd identified the major players. They'd tracked shipments. They'd followed the money. And they'd noticed something interesting about a vendor called 305 Scammer. Visual, forum posts, shipping data, financial records. The 305 area code? That's Miami. Small detail, but important. Agents started narrowing their search. They looked for suspicious package shipments. They monitored internet traffic patterns. They coordinated with international law enforcement partners. And eventually, they found him. The day John Boseak got arrested, he probably thought it was just like any other day. But federal agents had been planning this operation for months. They knew exactly when to strike, exactly where he'd be, and exactly what evidence they'd find. When the Secret Service agents knocked on his door, John Boseak's life as 305 Scammer was over. Inside his apartment, investigators found everything: the card manufacturing equipment, the computer systems, the records of thousands of transactions. It was an open and shut case. The evidence was overwhelming. Boseak had been so confident in his security measures that he'd kept detailed records of everything. Every card manufactured, every customer served, every dollar earned. It was a prosecutor's dream case. In September 2013, John Boseak was sentenced to 24 months in federal prison. He would serve his time at the Federal Correctional Complex in Coleman, Florida. 24 months, 2 years, for a criminal enterprise that generated hundreds of thousands of dollars and victimized countless people. Why such a relatively light sentence? That's where the story gets interesting, because what happened in that courtroom and what happened after Boseak got out of prison reveals something surprising about the justice system and the world of cybercrime. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, you need to understand what life was like inside a federal prison for one of the dark web's most notorious criminals. Federal prison is designed to break you. The isolation, the routine, the loss of freedom, it changes people. For John Boseak, those 24 months gave him something he'd never had before: time to think, time to reflect on what he'd done, time to consider the victims, the ordinary people whose bank accounts he'd helped drain, whose credit he'd helped destroy. Most criminals come out of prison and return to crime. The statistics are grim, but Boseak made a different choice. He decided to tell his story. When John Boseak walked out of Coleman Federal Correctional Complex, he could have disappeared, changed his name, moved to another state, started over in anonymity. Instead, he did something remarkable. He became an educator. Boseak started speaking publicly about his crimes, about the dark web, about how credit card fraud really works. He appeared on podcasts. He gave interviews. He wrote a book with true crime author Matthew Cox called Bent: How a Homeless Teen Turned Credit Card. Counterfeiter made millions in the cyber underworld and walked away. Why would someone do this? Why expose yourself when you could just disappear? According to Boseak, it's about redemption. It's about warning others, both potential criminals and potential victims. Here's the uncomfortable truth. John Boseak's arrest didn't stop credit card fraud. It didn't shut down the dark web. It didn't even slow things down. If anything, the problem has gotten worse. The techniques have gotten more sophisticated. The criminals have gotten smarter. And the victims? They're increasing every single day. Boseak's story isn't just about one man's rise and fall. It's a window into an ongoing criminal ecosystem that's costing ordinary people billions of dollars every year. The forums still exist. The vendors still operate. The cards still get manufactured and shipped worldwide. So what can we learn from this? And more importantly, how can you protect yourself? John Boseak now spends his time teaching people how to avoid becoming victims of the very crimes he once committed. His advice? Simple, but crucial. First, check your credit card statements obsessively. Most fraud starts small criminals testing cards with tiny charges to see if anyone notices. Second, use credit cards, not debit cards. Credit cards have better fraud protection and don't directly access your bank account. Third, be suspicious of any unsolicited contact asking for personal information. Real banks will never ask for your full card number via email or phone. And fourth, remember that your information is constantly at risk. Every time you swipe a card, every time you shop online, every time you hand your card to a server at a restaurant, you're taking a risk. End quote. So what's the real story of John Boseak? Is he a villain? A victim of circumstance? A cautionary tale? Or is he proof that people can change? Maybe he's all of these things. He committed serious crimes. He victimized innocent people. He profited from fraud and helped other criminals do the same. But he also came from nothing. He made terrible choices when he saw no other options, and he's now trying to make amends by educating others. The truth is, John Boseak's story reveals something uncomfortable about modern society. How easy it is to fall into crime when you're desperate. How sophisticated these criminal networks have become, and how vulnerable all of us are to being victimized. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is doing exactly what John Boseak did. They're manufacturing counterfeit cards. They're selling them on dark web forums. They're shipping them to criminals who will use them to drain bank accounts. And somewhere else, someone is becoming a victim. They're checking their bank statement and seeing charges they don't recognize. They're dealing with the nightmare of identity theft. They're learning the hard way that cybercrime isn't just something that happens to other people. The dark web hasn't gone away. The criminals haven't stopped. And the next John Boseak is probably out there right now, learning the same techniques, making the same choices, and walking the same dangerous path. The question is, will their story end the same way? Or will they go even further? If this documentary opened your eyes to the realities of cybercrime, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me what other true crime stories you want to see. And most importantly, go check your credit card statement right now. Because the person who's targeting you might not be some distant hacker in a foreign country. They might be just like John Boseak, someone you'd never suspect, operating right in your own neighborhood. This has been the full story of John Boseak, Miami's dark lord of credit card scams, the king of carding, the man who went from homeless to cybercrime kingpin and back again. Stay safe out there.